the start, everybody's sort of shy, and then now I have to quieten everyone down. So what were the barriers to collaboration? I'm going to do this on the little Jamboard just to kind of use it. There's more of you over there, but my plug is over here. So, does anyone want to shout one out? What were kind of barriers or things that came up? Firewalls in corporate organizations. Okay, so firewalls. Sort of, yeah, things like VPNs and firewalls and those sort of things that hamper collaboration. Anybody else want to throw something out? People. Yeah, that's true, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. People can be barriers to collaboration.
I said individual agendas versus big picture.
Individual agendas versus big picture, yeah. So that's sort of, what would we call it, like culture maybe, or yeah. Sort of, yeah, people having their own agendas. Personal. You'll see a proper demo of the Jamboard later on, but I just wanted to get these down. Anybody else? Lack of vision, yeah. Cool. Anyone else? You sound like you got a lot to say.
It's a big microphone. I was just saying the cross-functional working together. So the functional groups themselves are quite good, but when it comes to cross-functional coordination to coordinate
across departments,
exactly, yeah. So if you have like a go-to-market campaign, you want to coordinate sales, customer success, product, engineering, and so on together for a singular campaign. How best do they work together to achieve that?
Marketing, yeah, cool. Anybody else?
Overclassify or make. Well, I'm quite loud. Overclassification of information. The idea is they think it's more confidential than it actually is.
Yeah.
And that comes to talk about vision, but from a strategic position of having ownership within the business of information. Too often they're siloed, and those individuals make decisions rather than the vision and strategy and ownership that someone is accountable, and you have proper governance in place to ensure.
Yeah, security and configuration,
training.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one, the overclassification thing of like, we can't share this because it's, people can't know this information, it's secret, and then it's creating silos in the business, isn't it? And so, that's putting up the barriers. Brilliant. Anybody else? I'm going to wrap up in a second. One last one now. Oh, that is not how you spell buy-in. It's okay. We get to see how the rubber works now. Or not. There we go. That's what we're here to do. Here to do today is to look at those barriers and how organizations have broken those down, and how we can break some of those barriers down within maybe some of your organizations. So I'm just gonna briefly introduce. I don't want to harp on about it too much. Just briefly introduce ourselves, just to give you guys a little bit of context. Our company is Damson Cloud. We've been a Google partner for 10 years. Our mission is to help organizations leverage the cloud. So that's really what we want to do. We want to help you drive business transformation, but primarily using cloud technologies. As I said, I'm CEO and founder of Damson Cloud. And I specialize in change management and business transformation. That's the kind of area of expertise, and this sort of new way of working. So my job in the business is to help organizations break down those silos and break down those barriers and look at those outdated workflows and business processes and see if we can improve them using technologies like Google and G Suite. Obviously, we've locations in Dublin and London. You might have noticed that the Creative Collaboration Summit was also in Dublin last week. Some of you might have seen the highlights video from that. And obviously, London is where 60 or 70% of our customers are. So we also want to run it here. We have 3 pillars in our business: migrate, secure, and innovate. So the migration piece is really about moving your information to the cloud and de-risking that move, because the migration to the cloud is scary for a lot of organizations, and it's often the first time that they've done it. And we'll hear from Tim later on about how our team helped them with that, with their initial move to the cloud. And then securing it. When we think about the cloud, obviously security comes into this, and we always have a motto of security first. So we don't want to wait until the gate is open. We want to look at security from the beginning, and that the cloud goes hand in hand in security. And we like to show customers how they can actually have improved security within the cloud, which is now possible today. And then the last part is innovation. And the innovation piece is really what gets me excited, although I do get excited easily, as you might have noticed. And the innovation piece is around digital transformation. And I know that these bits have to be done, and my technical team work on this, but I want to get to the digital transformation piece. I want to run digital transformation labs. I want to break apart those old silos and those old business processes. And this is the piece that I always want to get to, but we've got to do the other stuff first, okay? Our partnerships, obviously Google is one of our key partners who very kindly given us this space today. But we also have some other customers like Hapio, which is a sort of a digital workspace, General Audit Tool, Backupify, and CloudLock, and Cloud Manager. And that's just a handful of some of the companies. These are also all Google partners. They're called ISVs, or integrated service vendors. And they make tools that augment or improve the Google technology or environment. And what's great about Google is that you can do that. Some of our customers, we've got Brown Bag Films, Morgan McKinley. We've also got here in the UK, Shazam, uswitch.com, ZPG, and Start Design, who are going to be speaking with us today. So, digital transformation. When we think about digital transformation, most of us are thinking about collaboration. That's what most people kind of think about. And obviously the theme of our event today is creative collaboration, creative ways of collaborating. And when we think about collaboration, there's kind of two extremes of it. There's synchronous collaboration and asynchronous collaboration. Synchronous collaboration is live. It doesn't necessarily have to be in person. It could be over a video call, but it's collaboration that's happening in the moment. So, you know, what we were doing there with the Jamboard or discussions that we're having, that's synchronous collaboration. It's in sync and it's happening in the moment, okay? Does that make sense? And then asynchronous collaboration is basically collaboration with the time delay. So there's some sort of time delay. A perfect example of this is sending an email attachment to someone with a document, them maybe making some notes and sending it back to you. You're collaborating, but there's a time delay between it. And most cloud-based tools are trying to push us towards this synchronous collaboration, because that's where we break down the barriers, where we've got real-time editing, where we've got live collaboration on video calls or in-person meetings or Jamboards. That's where the real-time collaboration comes into its own and, as I said, breaks down those barriers. When it comes to digital transformation, most people think about the technology, and the technology is really important. We're obviously at Google today, and we're going to be talking about some of Google's technologies, but there's also a couple of other key areas that if you don't get right, your digital transformation will fail, or it won't be successful. And that's the process piece and the people. And it's only when you get these three elements together that you actually get digital transformation. And so what we work with our customers on, and where a lot of Google partners come in, is working on this process and the people bit. We bring in the technology, and a lot of customers kind of feel, oh, I bought that app, or brought in this new product or service. That's it, my digital transformation is done. But as we were talking about with some of the barriers to collaboration, and people mentioned a couple of these, whether it was culture or people or firewalls, or processes, you know, it hits on a lot of those areas, doesn't it? And so we need to get all three elements in order to have digital transformation. Now, our digital transformation map or collaboration map that we work with customers on, we do a workshop on this and break down these particular areas. A lot of people will have seen this previous slide, but I kind of feel like it doesn't dive into it enough. So I want to explore this with you just for a few minutes. And I think it's interesting, some of the areas that people mentioned, because I'm gonna bring them up here. So when we think about people, we think about leadership, and the lady at the back had mentioned that we need to get buy-in from leadership and stakeholders within the organization. Company culture was mentioned, and all of these things can either help collaboration or hinder collaboration. So, for example, company culture, you know, could be that you don't send an email to the CEO. It's just not a done thing. It has to go through, you know, 3 or 4 other people on the executive team. And so that's a company culture that's blocking collaboration, isn't it? And so all of these areas that we're going to go through can either have a negative or a positive effect on your company culture and on the collaboration within your organization. And we try to sort of traffic light system these, so are they red or green or orange, and where are the areas that maybe your organization need to work on. My little clicker here is running out of battery. Skills, I think this was kind of mentioned as well with the people, that the skills in the organization, when you bring in a new tool, you need to train people on it, don't you? You need to support them. You need to communicate with those end users and make sure that they're aware of the change that's coming and that they have the tools and the skills available to them to use that technology. If they can't utilize it, then they're not going to be able to do anything with it. The business model of an organization again can impact the collaboration. If a company is highly distributed, obviously that can affect collaboration compared with an organization that's all in the same place. A perfect example of this would be a retail company. And so that company might have to use different technology, mightn't it, to allow connections between their different locations. Or maybe they might be a globally distributed team. And so again, they might need to use different technologies to connect those different offices. And again, we'll be hearing from Tim how they've used technology to connect their different locations in the UK and across the world. Policies and processes, and this is one that we work on with customers a lot. I'm going to talk about transformation labs later on. Transformation labs are Google's sort of innovative workshop or lab that allows companies to sort of kickstart their digital transformation, and I'll be talking about that later on. But this is where we really work on the processes piece, and a lot of people have never really gotten a chance to kind of look at those processes that maybe have been in place for 5 or 10 or 20 years within their business and could really be slowing things down. Costs, obviously a lot of these things have a cost associated with them. And by that, I don't just mean financial costs, I also mean resources. So are the leadership team willing to put in place the resources to actually drive this digital transformation within your organization? And then we come to the technology. Obviously, we recommend tools like Google. And so the core tools that you have will either help or hinder collaboration in your organization, won't they? If you don't have the right tools at your disposal, you won't be able to collaborate with your team. If you don't have video conferencing, you can't do a video call with people. So making it easy for people that they can just walk into a room and they can jump on a video call without having to go through a bunch of firewalls or VPNs or some of the other stuff that you guys brought up. That makes it easy, doesn't it? That's breaking down those barriers that we were talking about. And then last, it actually comes to some of the other areas that you guys mentioned, admin and IT and infrastructure. And I know there's a couple of IT or admin people here. That's things like, is there a VPN or 27 passwords that you have to put in? And it's that balance. I always say security is a balance between convenience and security. Your account would be really convenient to access if there was no password, but it would be really unsecure, wouldn't it? And so we do recommend that you have a password and two-step verification for the record. But it is a balance between the convenience for your end users and the security of your tools. And we were talking about, the gentleman was talking about the overclassification thing. I think that kind of comes into it as well. And then infrastructure, we're talking about devices, we're talking about connection to broadband and internet. That's a huge challenge in a lot of places. You might have noticed that I have an Irish accent. I'm from Dublin, and it's a huge challenge in rural areas in Ireland. I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but definitely infrastructure is something that for people when they're looking at these things, if they've got remote offices, if they're in countries or organizations where maybe things are restricted. We've got some customers that have those challenges. So all of these things come into it, and as I said, will help or hinder our transformation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about G Suite and Google and how Google believe that work is transforming. Okay, so G Suite, I just want to talk about the evolution of the workplace and how the workplace has kind of changed, because it's really different. And I was actually having this conversation with one of my friends last night that, like in the 90s we had like desktop computers, we'd limited storage, not everybody in an organization maybe even had a computer. Then in the 2000s we had mobile devices and cloud. And then there's this sort of question of like, what's next? And I think it's hard to think about, isn't it? Like, what will work look like in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years? And when I say that, we're not really thinking about it, are we? If we're to go back 10 or 15 years, what did work look like? Like, my son is 9 now, and he said to me the other day, Dad, did they have iPhones when you were a kid? And I was like, I got my first iPhone the year you were born. I mean, they're a really recent thing. But like to him, the iPhone or the smartphone has always existed in his lifetime. So to him, it's a normal thing. And that's literally only in the last 10 or 15 years, isn't it? I mean, I can remember having a Motorola flip phone, and it was the coolest thing ever. Do you know what I mean? Because it flipped. And you know, getting that, like I said, 15, 20 years ago. So I think if we think about how different things are in that short space of time, what will work actually look like? How much will things like AI and machine learning, and that's really where I think the focus will be, but how much of it, you know, will it do? And it's funny, we kind of laugh at maybe some of those things now. You ask Siri to do something and it doesn't understand you. I don't know if you've seen that, the funny Scottish comedy thing where, I know we've got Colin from Scotland, one of my colleagues. That's why I had to bring that up, sorry. And the Scottish gentleman is trying to talk to Siri and he can't. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. It's very funny. But I think we kind of laugh at those things now, and we think, how could it possibly get to a point where it would be useful, it would be valuable, it would help me in my daily life? But I mean, people laughed at the iPad, do you know what I mean, when it first came out. And, you know, people didn't think that someone would buy a large phone, you know, as the smartphones, because it would be too big to carry in your pocket, you know, and yet now that's what we have. So I think we need to think about the future. We need to think back is kind of my point, and just realize that there's huge change coming, and those technologies will get there, and we'll probably look back at them in 10 years and think, wow, we didn't see it. The other thing that's changing is the workforce. So 70% of millennials feel that flexible working would make them more productive. And of that same group of people, that same workforce feel that 40% feel that the same would be true of remote working. And I think that that's very interesting, that we have a workforce that's used to collaborative tools. They're using them in colleges and schools as they're growing up, and they're coming into the workforce and expecting these things. And when they get maybe more outdated tools, they're becoming frustrated with them. Also, digital transformation has kind of gone beyond the storage. You know, digital transformation 10 years ago used to be just throw your stuff up on the cloud, and that was your kind of business digitally transformed. But I think people now are expecting collaboration tools, and legacy systems are actually hindering productivity. And there's some interesting statistics on this, that the same tasks for employees on non-collaborative tools are taking up to 2 hours more per week, because they're not able to collaborate with their colleagues. So I think that's a really interesting stat from Forrester for me. And then just thinking about the status quo. So, you know, will the status quo lead our company to success? Often we know where we want to get to, but we're not entirely sure how to get there. Do you know what I mean? And that's, you know, that's the whole point of these discussions, of events like this, that we can explore that type of stuff. And then when it comes to technologies, providing a platform that will change behavior. You know, Google's sort of 3 areas are create, share, and access. And these really drive adoption levels across an organization. And they make it easy to adopt these tools and technologies. So looking at Google for a second, as I said, there's these sort of 3 areas, create, connect, and access, and then control, obviously, for the techies in the room. And as I said, I know there's a few of you. And I'm going to dive into these areas in more detail under a couple of different headings. So my different headings are culture of collaboration, intelligent productivity, connected knowledge, and it was interesting some of the silos we were talking about earlier on. I'm going to come back to that. And then simple and secure and manageable. So culture of collaboration. With how things have changed now, that organizations need to evolve for this kind of global landscape, we need to move beyond this version control of you know, sending a document back and forth and having multiple versions of it. I don't know if any of you have experienced this. I've had an interesting experience personally where my partner has gotten to use kind of Google's more collaborative tools, and then has had to go back to this idea of versions. And when she opens a document now, she works in the finance department, she opens a document now, if someone else is editing it, it says, sorry, you're not allowed to edit this because someone else is looking at it somewhere else. I can see a few nodding heads. And she's incredibly frustrated with it because she's experienced that live editing within Google Drive. And by 2020, we're going to have potentially 50% of the workforce working remotely. So how are those people going to work in collaborative ways? You know, with tools like Google, if any of you have experienced this, you can edit in live, in real time, in multiple locations with multiple people. And, you know, it's tools like this that allow that true real-time collaboration. And as I said, coming back to the digital transformation piece, it's pushing us towards that synchronous collaboration, isn't it? That we're just able to get it done in real time. And I always experience this when I do events because I work with a lot of people on the slides. And so I'm working on a slide, Tim's working on another one, maybe Colin's working on a different one, and we're working together at the same time on the same presentation, and it's incredible to see when you think about the previous slide of just having to email multiple versions of the document back and forth. And then we've also got things like Jamboard. You guys experience this a little bit, and you'll see a proper demo of it later on. And multiple Jamboards can be connected together so that people in different locations can actually write on a whiteboard as if they're in the same room together, which is amazing. And I'm really excited by the Jamboard. The Jamboard app itself is free, so if you've got your iPad with you or whatever, you can download the Jamboard or your smartphone, and you can kind of join our little jam later on and collaborate with us. And then you got Hangouts Chat, which is a communication tool, and Google use it internally. We use it internally with our teams. And we also use it externally with customers and partners. We have group chats that we use within our organization. And I think customers are always surprised at how chat becomes a really important fundamental tool in their business. That again, instead of having 10 emails, you can have a 2-minute conversation on chat, and you can get a decision and get it done. Then we've got intelligent productivity. So with intelligent productivity, people are actually losing time on these mundane tasks. People are spending 8 hours a week just searching and consolidating information. That's insane. And they're spending 11 hours a week just reading and responding to emails. With tools in Google, you've got things like Quick Access. Quick Access uses Google's machine learning to surface the actual documents and files that you're looking for. So when I went to open my laptop today, I didn't have to search for this presentation. My Google environment or platform knew that I was coming to this event. It knew that the event was called Creative Collaboration, and so was my slide deck. It knew that I'd been working on the slide deck, and it assumed that that would probably be the slide deck that I was looking for. So it surfaced it to the top, and it was the first document in the Quick Access that I was looking for. And then you've also got Smart Reply in Gmail. If anyone has a personal Gmail account or work, you may have experienced the Smart Reply, where it gives you a quick response to your email, and it's really valuable when you're out on the road. Now, what's interesting about this is when this launched, I actually was like, that doesn't sound like something I'd say. I'm not going to use that. And then after a couple of weeks, I was like, that sounds a little bit more like me. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, that's exactly what I'd say. So the machine learning began to learn the language that I would use. And so mine says awesome and things like that a lot because I use that word a lot. So I'm like, oh, awesome, yeah, that's great, cool. So the words that you start to use in your responses, it starts to predict. And there's a new one called Smart Compose, which is on the web, and it will actually predict entire sentences. And I wrote an email the other day. I think I only typed 6 words, and it predicted it was what I was going to say, But it's just interesting. I think that probably the future is just AI robots talking to AI robots. None of us will actually be talking to each other. Then we've got third-party apps, and I think this is a really interesting one. Google sort of relaunched this recently. It used to be called Contextual Gadgets, but this is basically where you're able to access a third-party application from within your inbox. Most of us work in our inbox, don't we? That's where a lot of our work gets done. But we also need to access other systems like PO systems and accounts packages and CRM systems if you're in sales, customer relationship management for people that aren't in sales. And so this is a tool called ProsperWorks, which is a CRM. And the person is not only being able to view content from the CRM, they're actually being able to take actions on it. So that's really, really interesting. And I think that's, that's a way that we can really, really improve our productivity, where the email has the information I'm looking for, and ProsperWorks actually pulls some of the information from the email, like the signature of the person will actually pull the contact information and put it into a contact, which is amazing. That's just that particular tool. But just having access to those third-party tools in our inboxes really helps us with that productivity. Next, we've got connected knowledge, and this is talking about the silos, the fractured communications, the scattered files, and coming back to some of the discussions that we had at the start, and how Google can help with that obstacles to collaboration and that decision making. So with things like Team Drive, I don't know if you've come across Team Drive. You might be familiar with Google Drive. Team Drive is Google's sort of next iteration of Team Drive, and it's enterprise solution for organizations' files. And it's essentially your kind of server in the cloud. And we've really, as Google partners, we've been Google partners for 10 years. We've been really waiting for this and excited for this. I know Tim's going to talk about this in more detail because their team have moved over to Team Drives from a traditional file server. And we're starting to see customers do that for the first time, that there's a system now that will allow you to turn off your file server, which is amazing. And it's really just this idea of building bridges across the organization and making it easy to find the information. And that's kind of my next piece, that once your data is in the cloud, it's actually much easier to do stuff with it. So when your data is in the cloud, you can find it easier. So where do we go when we want to find things on the web? We go to Google, don't we? We run searches on google.com or google.co.uk. And now you've got that same search technology built into your environment. And so you can actually run searches in Google Cloud Search across all of the Google products: Mail, Calendar, Drive, Sites, absolutely everything. And recently in Google's enterprise sort of edition of G Suite, they launched a feature where you can now connect some of your company internal databases with Google Cloud Search. So now you're not only going to be able to search Google, but your own internal systems. And that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? To bring that sort of search technology to some of those, that siloed information you were talking about that maybe hasn't been accessed in years, and that your company could do something interesting with. And then we've got Google Plus, not too popular externally, but internally in organizations, an extremely popular tool for sharing and collaborating and just sharing ideas and discussions with some really interesting use cases of Google Plus as sort of a private internal social network. And that's really what Google's focus for it is going to be. And then the next part is AI, and I mentioned this at the start, where I thought work was going over the coming decade or so. And I don't know if, has anyone ever used the Explore feature in Sheets? Anybody? 2, 3? Well, obviously you have. Other than my colleagues, is there anyone else? We've got 1 or 2 people. It's a very underutilized tool, and I'm going to be demonstrating it later on. It's in Google Sheets, so again, if you have a Gmail account, just set up or upload a dummy Google spreadsheet. And down on the bottom right-hand corner, there's this little button called Explore. It's also in Google Slides, and I think it's in Google Docs now as well. But the Sheets one is amazing. And what it allows you to do is to ask questions of the data in natural language. So in our normal day-to-day language, I don't need to know really complex algorithms or data sets within Excel. I can just ask Google a question of the data, and the AI and the machine learning will actually pull that information out for me. And it's amazing. So I'm gonna. It'll probably make more sense, I think, when I demonstrate it later on. But it's an example of how AI is kind of coming into the tools that we use on a daily basis for work. And then next we have simple, secure, and manageable. And again, I know not everyone's kind of a techie in the room, so I'll just talk about this briefly, and if anyone has any questions afterwards, we can take those. So security challenges. By 2020, 1/3 or 30% of successful attacks on enterprises will be from shadow IT. And shadow IT is systems, for those of you that don't know, that are outside of the IT team's control. So a rogue user setting up a Dropbox account or a personal Gmail account and putting corporate information or data into it. That's what they call you. They call you a rogue user, the IT teams. And so it's a big challenge for IT teams, because by shadow IT's very nature, it's outside of their control, and that's a huge challenge. And we need to give users access to this, these kind of tools and functionality. When we think about it, why are users doing it? They're using it because the tools in their business, in their work, aren't good enough for them, aren't giving them the collaboration, the other features we were talking about earlier. And so they're going outside of those corporate tools, aren't they? And so with a lot of our customers, when we come and we initially talk to them, sometimes IT teams say, no, there's no shadow IT used in our business. Our users don't do that. And then we come and we do some analysis, and we come back and we say, actually, we found 250 Dropbox accounts. really? You know, so it's very, very interesting. The problem with shadow IT is that it is outside of your control. And there are systems now whereby you can bring this information, this data, back under your control. So personal Google accounts that people have set up, you know, IT teams can actually bring that information in. And we've done that with a lot of customers. And so we're trying to give, Google are trying to give employees and users the tools that they want and need to get their job done, while giving IT teams the control that they need. And then centralized management. So you can actually manage all of your Google users and all of your data and information from a single control panel. So those of you that maybe aren't aware of the G Suite business tools, there's a centralized management control panel. Obviously, I won't be going into it in detail, but again, if there are any IT people in the room that maybe have questions on that, do feel free to come up to me and ask. Also, you've got tools like archiving and mobile device management. So Google Vault is a tool that manages and retains all of the emails and chats inside and outside the organization, and you can put retention holds on data. You can run searches in Drive, and this is fantastic for legal teams or for IT teams, particularly with things like GDPR now. Organizations are actually having to both keep data and delete data as well. So we've actually had a customer that's using Google Vault to delete data after a period of time because it's now, from a regulation point of view, they actually have to. And so this is hugely valuable for them. And then you've also got mobile device management. So Google has a comprehensive mobile device management tool built in. And this allows people to both bring BYOD, which is bring your own device to work, for those of you that don't know, and also from a corporate point of view, if you've got corporate phones, you can control them and manage them. You can enforce passwords, you can wipe devices, and all that kind of stuff. So really, really powerful tools for IT teams to have that control that they need on a daily basis. And then coming back to the AI is actually helping the IT teams as well. So Google use AI technology to block phishing emails and reduce the risk for IT teams. And also reporting and analytics. So the AI system will actually, and machine learning will surface particular security threats to the IT team to allow them to circumvent or catch some of the stuff almost before it happens. My clicker hates me today. Should have put a new battery into it. Partnership for success. So this comes back, and this is my kind of last piece, this and Transformation Labs. Partnership for success is around ourselves and Google partners. And Google have put a huge amount of money and effort into building their partner ecosystem. We joined the partner program 10 years ago now, next year. And it was really in its infancy then. There were only a handful of partners globally. And we've seen it grow and grow to thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of partners throughout the world. And we work with Google partners. We have actually an alliance of Google partners that we work with throughout the world. And it's fantastic because for us with global deployments now, we can lean and help our customers in America or Australia. We did training for Tim's organization actually in Dubai, and we were able to use a Google partner there, and vice versa. They're able to use us. And that's hugely valuable for customers as well. Google have a proven methodology, and this methodology has been taught to partners, and each partner uses this, engaging the stakeholders, deploying the services, growing the adoption, and then measuring and promoting success. And all of this leads to driving adoption and improving that return on investment. And then finally, coming back to the digital transformation piece that I mentioned at the start, you can kind of see with Google's tools and how, and Google's methodology, and then how Google partners kind of come into this, that we're hitting on these three key areas, aren't we? The technology, the process, and the people. But I just wanted to talk for a couple of slides just about the process and the people, and particularly how Google partners can help with that. And this is something called Digital Transformation Labs. And Transformation Labs, as I said, are Google's sort of methodology around an innovation workshop and sort of kickstarting that innovation within your organization. There's 4 key areas to it: inspire, discover, prototype, and iterate. The inspire piece is around showing customers how other companies or organizations have changed their business processes using Google's technology. The discover piece is around discovering those outdated business processes, and I've got some photos here that I think will kind of help. And then prototyping is actually prototyping the particular solution, and then the iterate piece is just really teaching companies that it's not a single process. The transformation lab isn't the start and the end. It's the beginning, and that transformation and digital transformation is something that you work on all the time. So what we're trying to find with these transformation labs is what we call quick wins. So we actually get people to, each of these is sort of a business process, and we get people to put it on a scale of what kind of impact would it have on your team if you were to change this business process. So if we picked a business process like HR or your sales training or something like that, if you were to improve this process, would it have a high impact on your team or a low impact? And then how difficult would it be to actually create or improve this process, create a solution for this process? Would it be really hard and it would take a development team 6 months? Or would it be really easy because we could just create a Google form and a Google site and in half a day we could have something up and running? So we're trying to find those quick wins that have a high impact and have a high or an easy ability to implement, okay? And as I said, I think some of the photos will probably help to make it make sense. This was with the walls to workstations guys. We did something similar, I think, with your team, although it was kind of a cut-down version. And so these are the business processes that the guys have mapped out. They've got project reports, they've got timelines, they've got expenses, they've got PO systems, and they've put these onto the little chart that I was talking about. And then the teams have sort of brainstormed out with the help of obviously our team as well. This particular process was a training management one, and they're going to use a Google site, and they're going to use Google Calendars and Google Drive and slides and YouTube to sort of hold the data. And so they brainstormed out the solution very quickly, and then actually within a few weeks of this, the team were able to build the solution out and implement it straight away. So we're trying to help you guys within a short turnaround time of half a day. The workshops generally are half a day, minimum of 15 people, primarily the same department if you can. You can do a cross-departmental one, but it works better if everybody's sort of in the same team or at least teams that kind of work together. So maybe marketing and HR maybe have some overlap or whatever. And that tends to be the most effective. So the question that I kind of leave people with is, where do you want to start? Is it like productivity in meetings? Is it content and collaboration? Or is it the kind of total transformation package? And that's what we sort of find, that people do enter the space in different ways. There are 3 tiers within the G Suite Business product. You've got G Suite Basic, G Suite Business, and G Suite Enterprise. Obviously, a lot of customers tend to kind of go for the middle one. This is the per user, per month pricing. And we just had a lot of questions on pricing in Dublin, and I didn't have a slide in it, so I've kind of added this. The core differences between the two. The first thing to note is that with G Suite, you get all of the products within each of the tiers. So the only ones that you don't are App Maker and which I'll talk about in a second, and Google Vault, which are part of the business package. So within the basic one here, we've got Gmail, we've got video conferencing, we've got messaging, calendars, Google Drive, and 30 gigs of storage. When you move up to the business one, which is the next one, you've also got this tool called App Maker, which is like a low-code tool that allows you to develop solutions without sort of needing to know about code, which is really useful. You also have unlimited storage. So no more worries about storage, which is fantastic for companies that have a huge amount of data. You've also got the Smart Search, so that search tool, cloud search I was talking about, for searching across your Google tools. And then obviously you get that in the Enterprise Edition as well. And then within Enterprise, some of the differences are, within Business, you've got the e-discovery, so the Google Vault. And then within Enterprise, there are a lot of other differences, but the prime ones are around security. So DLP, data loss prevention. You've got integration with Gmail for compliance for third party. You've got enterprise-grade controls for security keys, and Gmail log analysis and BigQuery. So they tend to be things that only really large customers need. There is a link to a 10 or 15 page document that has every single feature and the difference between the two. So I will make sure that link is sent out to people. That's what the document looks like.